Good morning, friends. Happy Tuesday, April 7th. This is Tuesday of Holy Week. So, Holy Week, this is a church term for the week of the intervening time between Palm Sunday and Easter Sunday. This is the time of Jesus' preparation for Good Friday. This is the time of his what they might think are his final words, his disciples' final words, to teach them and prepare them. This is the crowning point of his suffering on our behalf. So one of the things that we haven't talked about since coronavirus heated up is Lent, is fasting, is checking in with how are you doing not doing the things that you said you were going to give up? How are you doing not doing the things that are unhealthy for us to do? How are you doing pursuing God? This year for Lent, I didn't ask you so much to fast as I did to increase your intentional seeking of God. But we haven't really talked about that. It's like there's been something other, huge and big thing taking over our lives and our minds. So today what I want to do is check us back in with Lent, with our fast, with what it is that we were giving up and how we were seeking God in the midst of life. So Lent is 40 days. It starts on Ash Wednesday and runs through Good Friday. And these 40 days represent a few different 40s in the Bible. It rained for 40 days and 40 nights while Noah was on the ark. The Israelites spent 40 years in the desert. Elijah ran from Jezebel for 40 days and 40 nights up to a mountain, fasting the whole time. And so at the beginning of his ministry, Jesus actually fasted for 40 days and 40 nights. And the Spirit led him out into the desert to fast. And after the fast, he was tempted by Satan. So that's why for Lent, we Christians attempt to sort of emulate that by fasting from something. Now, we get the benefit of churchy rules, and so we only fast on the 6 days of the week, and on the seventh Sunday, we get to feast that day. We get a break, but we still try to emulate a little bit of Christ's suffering on our behalf, so that we can identify with and get closer to Christ. So that's what Lent is for, is preparing us to be more like Christ. Now, it could be said that we've all given up a whole lot this Lent, all right? But there's a difference between things passively happening to us, around us, in the world, and us intentionally seeking God in the midst of those things. We've got some really good friends right now, and the husband is in the hospital with pneumonia, and it's really bad, and he's on a ventilator, and there are a variety of ways for families to deal with and grieve this. But the wife in this couple is actually being inspirational. She doesn't have to be strong. She doesn't have to be a rock. She doesn't have to be incredible. But every day she's giving updates and sharing how she's looking for God in the midst of this with herself and with the kids. And it's just astounding in a good way. So when we face suffering, when we face difficult things, how do we respond? And do we pause to intentionally think, as I walk through this, no matter how hard it is, I can get closer to Christ? That's a big ask. But if we are pursuing Christ likeness, it is a worthy ask to make. So for today's devotional, right here at the very end of our time together, I'm going to read a few verses at the end of 2 Corinthians chapter 4. So we read from this late last week, I believe Thursday or Friday, about the treasure in clay jars, and how we're not, we're crushed but not perplexed, not abandoned, not destroyed, that sort of thing. So today what I want to do is walk through a few verses here that talk about why we keep moving when things are difficult, when we're suffering, when life's hard, when we're pretty sure we're just going to die. There's a reason to keep putting one foot in front of the other. There may not be a reason for the suffering, aside from the fact that in hindsight down the road, we can see that God was with us and he can be glorified. There may not be a reason for the suffering. Most suffering in our world is mindless. But in the midst of it, if I am under duress, if I am under difficulty and suffering, can I, rather than mindlessly, passively go through it, intentionally look for God in the midst of it? So here's a few verses. 2 Corinthians 4, starting in verse 14. We know that the one who raised the Lord Jesus from the dead will also raise us with Jesus and present us with you in his presence. All this is for your benefit, so that the grace that is reaching more and more people may cause thanksgiving to overflow to the glory of God. Therefore, we do not lose heart. Outwardly we are wasting away, yet inwardly we are being renewed day by day. Our light and momentary troubles, no matter what they are. Now, when Paul's writing this, he's talking about actually getting beaten and thrown out of cities and stoned, not the drug kind, like boulders, fat rocks being thrown at him, and other Christians facing persecution unto death. Our light and momentary troubles, perspective. Our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs all of our troubles. So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen. God, for what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. Some of you might be facing the worst time of your life, might be suffering so much, might be having the worst time to get through this. Some of you might be thinking, I've had worse. But in the midst of it, you've got a choice in mindset and how you receive it. And so I challenge you to look for the eternal in the midst of the light and momentary. Our troubles will not last forever. Not a chance. But as we seek the invisible, as we seek God, as we seek his presence in the midst of our troubles and our suffering, we begin to glimpse and prepare for eternity. That's my prayer for you today. I hope you have a wonderful day. You're not alone in the troubles that you're going through, and if you do need something, please don't hesitate to reach out. If I can do anything to help or comfort or guide, I will certainly do so. Bend over backwards for you. And in the meantime, don't forget 2 Corinthians 4, verses 17 through 19. We're not in this alone, and there is reason to persevere. We're going to get through this. Keep it up, church. You're doing well. You're loved, and I hope you have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.